Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Library Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, June 5th, 2025. This meeting will be held in person and will be streamed at youtube.com/user/the City of Pleasanton. It is requested that members of the public wishing to address the commission submit a speaker card. When public comment is opened on an agenda item, individuals may speak once per agenda item. Okay, Commissioner Chen, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And could we take the roll call, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Chen.
Present.
Commissioner Emerson.
Present.
Commissioner Joshi.
Present.
Commissioner Kimsey.
Present.
Commissioner Stout.
Present.
Commissioner Woodwell.
Present.
And Chair Sabatini.
Present.
Thank you.
Are there any agenda amendments tonight from staff?
There are no agenda amendments from staff. Thank you.
Item number 1 is introductions. And for those who knew Ishmeet, Ishmeet Dhillon, our previous commissioner, she wanted us all to know that she was accepted into Harvard University. So there's good work comes from being a commissioner. So, and now we have 2 new commissioners.
Was there a correction on that?
I just wanted to note that Ishmeet's going to Yale.
What?
So was she accepted in both of them?
No, she was accepted to Yale.
Oh,
Correction, that's probably my error.
okay. Sorry I got that wrong, but still
Still
very
impressive.
exciting.
I just saw her.
It might actually right now be better. Yeah, that's
And then from our representative from the Friends, we have James Woodwell. I don't know, and our youth commissioner is, Anish Joshi, right? Is that correct? Okay, so welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other recognitions or presentations?
I have one more short recognition. We are very excited to welcome Commissioner Woodwell. And I would also like to acknowledge our outgoing commissioner. We didn't get a chance at our last meeting. Commissioner Sharon Murphy was our Friends liaison and dedicated through her entire 4-year term. Just really appreciate her contributions and acknowledge the Friends and their work. So the Friends of the Pleasanton Library are such an important part of this commission. And so we're very, very pleased to have Commissioner Woodwell join us. Thank you very much.
And do we have a presentation on Zippy?
We do.
Oh, did I skip?
No, we're
After, sorry. Okay.
Yes. So just one moment. I'm going to get this launched so that it can be seen on the screen. And just a quick reminder while we're loading this up on an unrelated matter, for all of our commissioners to please use their microphones. There are times when you cannot be heard from home, and we do have many listeners from home and throughout Pleasanton. So it's the green light, and you also have to lean into the mic, as we've found. So I know that's sometimes not super comfortable.
I see that.
Anya, am I sharing? Okay. We're going to give this one more try. Because it's got great visuals. I want everyone to be able to see it. I can see it, but I...
Did you do the?
Oh, no, I didn't. maybe if you go to. Okay, the long-awaited presentation along with the long-awaited vehicle. So we're just going to talk a little bit tonight about Zippy. That's our very exciting addition to the library team, Library and Recreation on the Go, we're calling this evening. And as many of you know, I think we had most commissioners there last Saturday. Zippy is our department's newest addition and launched on Saturday to very warm recognition from the community. So it was really wonderful to see commissioners there, to see so many community members. We had about 250 individuals get a chance to get on Zippy and look around, check out materials, and it was just a really successful launch. And so tonight we're going to kind of walk through a little bit of the backstory on Zippy, talk about the grant and the inception of the project. And I think we'll start first with our strategic plan because with that, this project has actually spanned 4 fiscal years. So it began with the prior strategic plan. So our department strategic plan from 24 to fiscal year 2024 to 20. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. 2019 to 2024 actually included our outreach vehicle. It wasn't successfully launched. The vehicle hadn't arrived, but it came early this year. And so that is goal number 1 in this cycle, is to just complete that launch, which we did launch it the first time, but to see through a full year of just service to the community and providing that vital outreach. So meeting Zippy, I think many people met Zippy. For those who haven't, Zippy is a 28, almost 29 foot step van provided to us by Farber Vehicles. That's the manufacturer. A step van, is built on a Ford chassis, and it comes pretty basic. So Zippy, really the power is in the enhancements in the equipment behind it that make it a library and outreach vehicle. So the goals of Zippy, and this was included in the grant that we drafted, were to provide a few different things. And one of the key things was to bridge gaps in our community. So to provide equity, access, as well as obviously some visibility around Pleasanton. Zippy's very eye-catching, and so it has a real nice outreach and, marketing component to it as well. Reaching those neighborhoods with more limited transportation, lower income, or less access to library services, and then all while using our existing programs and our staff teams, and then providing activities as well. That would be things like story times that we're planning for with Zippy. We're going to launch the Library of Things collection a little bit more fully. We saw that on our launch date, how popular those Library of Things collections were on the vehicle. They all checked out. We kept replenishing them. And then summer reading elements, we're already doing that, as well as some recreation activities because it is a library and a recreation outreach vehicle. We initially, when the grant was drafted, we intended to go out a lot more with Zippy, a couple times a week and throughout the month. Right now we're doing a little bit more scaled back version of once a month as we get our feet wet. We're really trying to gauge just really the best locations and the staffing models and what types of programs are going to work well. We're looking at community events, of course. So in addition to 2 library programs in June and July, we're also going to, we just learned we're going to be at our Concerts in the Park in July. So that's another neat community event we'll visit. We're thinking of hometown holidays and possibly some others throughout the year where it makes sense and where we feel like we could reach some library and recreation users. Looking again at underserved areas. The further that individuals are from the library, generally the use of the library goes down as well as the satisfaction rates. That's one thing that came to us through our citywide survey. And that citywide survey was for more than just library services. It was a city survey. Additionally, looking at, we're already scheduled for parks, but possibly expanding to school outreach. We're just looking at what the best sort of method and mechanism and where that is and which schools. And it's hard to meet, all the demand for the schools. So, just looking at what the most impact would be. So, And for those that are interested, that community survey was back in 2021. So we launched this grant application process back in 2021. We actually applied for the grant a first time. We didn't get the grant, but we're very persistent. So we applied a second time and we did get it. So it's kind of a neat backstory. So Zippy's journey, I thought this was sort of fun to look at. Why did this project span 4 fiscal years? I kind of came to the project a little later in the cycle, and so it was really helpful for me to lay this out. So back in fiscal year 22, the second time we had applied for the grant, we applied for a matching grant. So we received $175,000 through the generosity of the state of California, administered by the California State Library. So that paid for approximately half of the cost of the vehicle and equipment itself. And then the city provided matching funds of $175,000 for the vehicle, as well as some additional funding for, things like the design of, the graphic design wrap that you see, that beautiful work outside the vehicle. Some other, equipment, technology that would not be covered by the grant. So we tried to kind of really focus our funds, where it applied. The grant only covered certain things. Additionally, as the Friends are here, we want to thank the Friends for $10,000, a very generous donation towards books for Zippy. The Friends are obviously passionate about books, and so each of the books on Zippy that are provided by the Friends will have a book plate, a commemorative book plate, as well as a special label to designate it's a Zippy book. Additionally, we were lucky enough to get another about $12,000 through the Black Gold Cooperative Library System, and that was for the libraries that had all applied for a mobile outreach vehicle grant. This cooperative system that's based in California realized a lot of libraries were falling short on funding, and so they put in a little extra money that helped out. So that was, the funding was, awarded and granted in a timely manner. The vehicle began purchasing, but, around that time period was, the tail end of the pandemic. There were supply chain demands for the vehicle, so there were extensive delays. We also did have delays in the sort of the design and the vehicle design phase. There were equipment delays as well, because the equipment that had to be added on was specialized. And then the vehicle had to be, it came out from Ohio, so it had kind of a long journey out here. Looked a little worse for the wear, but when you saw Zippy on launch date, Zippy had been beautifully detailed, and, it's all in tip-top shape now. And after the vehicle arrived, one thing we weren't aware of was the extensive training we did need for staff. So staff was able to drive the vehicle legally, right off the bat. We intentionally purchased a Class C drivable vehicle that technically wasn't a commercial driver's license requirement. However, one thing we learned in working with our public works team is that the weight of the vehicle and the size and maneuverability does push it into a commercial class, not for the driver's license, but for the training. So they highly recommended that our staff all take a driving training that was CHP compliant. And so we did engage in that. And it's about 8 hours of behind the wheel driving. And so each of our staff that are our current drivers was part of that, as well as a safe driving class. So I think, as residents, we're very happy to hear that staff are getting trained in how to drive, a vehicle that is sort of new to them. I took part of the training myself. I took the minimum level 3 hours. I'll be doing additional training, but I can say the maneuverability, it's quite different than managing, a vehicle that's much smaller. So we did want to build that confidence for our staff and, provide that. Additionally, we've had training on the use of the equipment because it's quite detailed. As I'll show you a few pictures in a bit. So, all this is the, the timely work that, that took a 4-year span. And unfortunately, we wish we'd gotten it a little earlier because of the timing too with the city budget. But we are glad that we received the grant, and it's something we wouldn't have otherwise been able to purchase. So we're very thankful to the state for that funding. And then what's inside Zippy? This is a little bit about some of the features. If you were inside Zippy, you might have gotten sort of a glimpse, but I think what wasn't there was all the kind of neat, activities and the things that we purchased that are auxiliary. But what's core inside Zippy, the indoor features, it has some built-in bookshelves, as you saw. They're all customizable, so they can be removed, swapped out. There's the book trucks that latch on. Those make it very easy to take materials on and off by using that wheelchair lift in the back. The wheelchair lift is also an important ADA feature as well. And, you know, it really, we offloaded the vehicle within 30 minutes on the day of the launch. So very, very handy. There's also quite a bit of equipment storage, and there are outdoor features. You probably saw the lovely awning that provided some shade on that 92-degree day on Saturday. We really did appreciate having a bit of shade. And I think it will be lovely if we're in a park to put some tables and chairs under and do some crafts and activities at those tables, and perhaps other things. There's also a video screen, a very nice video monitor out on the outside. We're still working on getting sort of a setup for that, and we haven't fully trained on how to run it, but we believe we can play some sort of marketing slides, perhaps a short video. So I think there's some neat promotional opportunities, you know, on board the vehicle when we bring that out. With that monitor comes a full speaker system, which you heard a bit from hearing the microphone. So very nice feature. It has a backup generator. That's how we ran air conditioning for the 4 hours we were outdoors. That trial run was very helpful because it lets us know we can be outdoors for 4 hours. I think most of our stops ideally would be just about 2 hours. We don't want to keep burning a lot of, you know, fuels and that sort of thing, but it is good to know that it's there. Additionally, we have those library and recreation activities. So you see on the screen in front of you, there's, you know, the neat parachute play. There's some what are called Kiva blocks and some gears and as well as some sports equipment. So our hope is to have some outdoor activities in addition to sort of the book components. We have ordered some STEM activities. I think we have some of the mini robots that we're going to launch, as well as, of course, crafts, and we've bought some craft sets. So really the sky's the limit with a vehicle like this. I think there's just so many things we can do. We're also looking at an environmental science program this fall that we have some additional grant funding to use for possibly a presenter as well. So stay tuned on that. So some really fun things aboard Zippy. I think I kind of touched on this. I sort of forgot we were going to cover this, but you get to see our wonderful staff driving the vehicle. So they had a lot of fun. Some folks did better than others, myself mostly. So backing up a vehicle of this size is, you know, not the easiest thing, but we had good instruction. They kind of set up an obstacle course for us over at Ken Mercer to drive around and back up. And you have to learn to really use your mirrors because there is a 360 camera, but it's not the safest way because, you know, a camera can miss many things. So I think we all learned some new driving skills as a result. And additionally, one of the other California Highway Patrol CHP requirements is something called a DVIR report. And I apologize, I forget what, I think D probably stands for something to do with driving, but it's a vehicle inspection report basically. And it's equivalent, they compare it to flying a plane. Before takeoff and at landing, you have to fill out this report. So when you take the vehicle out each day, it's a multi-point checklist, and it's not just really about, you know, is the gas full, but it's looking like under the hood, it's looking for leaks, it's looking for tire problems, things that could be real safety hazards for ourselves or for others. So we did receive training on how to do that, and that is a CHP compliance and insurance requirement. So just a whole new way of doing business that we're learning. And obviously the behind the wheel instruction was so important as well. And then I think the fun part is getting the message out, and we're still working on this, and it's sharing about Zippy. So we've done some website placement. We are going to look at possibly a map. But really, it's taking us a little while to stand this up because we don't have all the routes or all the visits scheduled yet. We think there's some really fun things we're going to do on TikTok, which we've been using in the library a little bit more to meet new generational audiences, as well as possibly having sort of a landing page for Zippy with the stops. You know, I think we want to scale it to what we're going to do. We can't go too big because we're not really doing that many stops, but we want to make sure everyone knows, because that was our number one question the day of the event was, do you have a schedule? So the answer to that is yes, we are working on a schedule. We don't have it yet. Everything's pretty much on our calendar at this point. So you could click on that little programs and events button that you see there on the top right with the calendar image. And then we'll come out with something a little bit more full-bodied once we know exactly what our schedule is. So what's next? So we do have Cottager Village Park coming in June, and then we're going to be visiting Ken Mercer Park in July. And then at each of those events, we'll feature a story time and an activity, and then we'll have obviously books and materials available for checkout on board, which was really fun for the kids and actually for everyone. And then we'll just, we're encouraging our community to watch for Zippy at other locations to come. So I think that's pretty much an overview. I'm sure there's many other comments and questions from commissioners that I may not have included, but happy to answer anything at this point. So thank you very much. We're very excited to have Zippy.
How many drivers are trained?
That's a great question. So 4.5, I will call myself 0.5 because I have another 5 hours to do. 2 of our drivers come from our theater team, our Firehouse Arts team. They have driven the box trucks in the city before, so they came in with some pretty strong driving skills. I would say one at least 20 plus years of driving experience with a vehicle of that type. The vehicle's about the size of a UPS truck for reference. It looks a little bigger, but it's about in that same size and weight range. And then we also have one library staff as a driver, and then another individual from the theater team who has driven more of a recreation style vehicle in the past. So sort of a mix of driving experiences. So we've got, about 5 people total. We may be able to train one more. Yeah, I'm hoping we could get a few more over time, because it really, if you have different hours and different schedules, we want to have as much availability as we can. But we understand it's a lift. Learning to drive a vehicle like that is not that simple. Good question.
The generator, is that electric? It's an electric generator?
It is. So that's a great question. That is another thing we didn't realize when the vehicle arrived, that it actually needs power. So it's kind of a trickle charger type thing. So it does have to be plugged in when it's parked, or you may not be able to actually start the vehicle. So it's not electric, but it's the electricity is, as you would imagine, to power the generator up.
It pulls from the vehicle.
Pulls from the
It pulls from the
exactly.
vehicle. Okay.
Yeah.
How many staff would go out for each event?
That's a great question too. So obviously the driver, we're looking at about 2.
Okay.
So we did have quite a few more at the library. I don't know if, it's interesting. We don't know if that will be as many people as we have at our outreach events. We're going to go to concerts in the park. I bet we will have quite a few at that event. We'll be alongside other city tables and booths, so we won't be the only feature at the event. But since the city is sponsoring this particular concerts in the park, it's the launch of the new bandstand and the opening of the remodeled park. We do think we're going to have a really good turnout. So I think we have 2 people scheduled for that.
At the outset, you mentioned the timing of the rollout and how this kind of came out when the city was experiencing
Absolutely.
its budget issues. Are there funding gaps that you foresee that the Friends or someone else could help cover off?
Yeah, that's a great question. In terms of ongoing maintenance, Zippy did join our public works fleet team, but we are funded for gasoline expenses. We do have other vehicles in library and recreation. We have a truck and a sort of a smaller SUV that we drive. Many are used for sports and facilities, rental locations. So we had a fund available for gasoline expenses. And, we don't anticipate anything at this point. It came fully stocked with equipment. Obviously, if there were new activities or supplies, but what we're trying to do is roll our sort of existing program budget, and the Friends have generously, provided for program expenses. So if, let's say, we had an outreach event and we happen to have a performer that was planned for that event, it was part of the sort of the program plan, then our friends would provide funding as requested. We would request funding. So that's a great question. I think really the challenge is the staffing model, the folks to go out.
So do you need to work with the school district then to coordinate if you're going to stop at school? Will that be part of sort of the monthly route?
Yes, and I don't know that we'll have a regular route. I think when we wrote the grant, that was the original intent, that we would have a regularity to the visits. On a weekly model, you can have that. You can have perhaps like if you were planning to visit the senior center and individuals would check out items and anticipate, that this would be, a regular stop. I don't think we're there. And that's something we can't commit to at this point. For the school district, we would work with the school district. We have a number of contacts there that we work with for, instance, our after school program and our enrichment activities that we partner with the school. We've done outreach with the schools over time. We have gone to open houses at some schools. It really is dependent on the school, and we'd like to get a little bit more of a plan around that. I think a lot of it is, what's requested. For instance, recently Fairlands Elementary School requested a family reading night appearance. We love the theme, of course. So we had our library staff go and they did outreach. They were able to issue some library cards, more importantly, promote the Student Success Program. Many students in the district still don't realize that their student ID works as a library card. I think that's a common, sort of thing that folks don't realize when they opt in, annually to the registration process, that they have a library card already in their wallet, which is pretty cool. Well, I guess young students don't always have wallets. So yes, I think we don't have a plan for the school outreach. We would need to work with the schools on what that looks like. We don't know if it would be an MOU or an agreement, or if it would just be, a scheduled stop, because the schools do have requirements just like the cities do for their events.
Have you looked into like other possible stops, like the job center or the Access Health or anything like that?
Access Community Health did come up, and I think I could get you more information, from the grant application. I know that we also spoke with Hively at one point too. So we had a number of community partners and some commitments. Our senior librarian, Renee Freitas, was working on that. And I think she is, continuing to reach out to those partners and gauge
It just
interest.
seems like that we might be reaching people who they're really in need of different things, and getting
Yes.
to the library so hard, and we have so much to offer.
Absolutely.
They might
So
not
that-
even know we have.
Yes.
So-
Yes. Thank you. And I did neglect to mention that. I thought, I can't remember where I had community partners written, whether it was in the report or whether it was. We've also been writing a series of newspaper articles and press releases recently because there's a lot of interest since Zippy's first visit. But yes, those two organizations, Hively and Access, were two that we were really interested in.
And did you have the date? I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it. The dates for the Cottinger Village Park and
Yes, I could.
Kenmore?
Yes, I can pull that up for you. Just one moment. Yes, we are still getting the calendar pretty much squared away. We appreciate the patience. I think it's,
And
we're
I guess
just-
the
it's
second
a-
part of that, would you like any volunteers at those events? Is the other
Yes.
part. Okay.
We definitely would. So as you know, our last item, so thank you
Yes,
for
yeah,
for
that's
mentioning
what
that. We can discuss a little
We're gonna look
further.
at the calendar.
Yeah,
so.
when we get to summer reading program, we have two calendars. It replaces sort of our outreach item we have every month, because every event during the summer is a summer reading program event. So we can talk a little bit further about that, what kind of, what that would look like. And thank you to all of you who were at the outreach event Saturday. That was really helpful. So I'll pull up the
Oh yeah,
the
there's
dates.
there's no rush at all. I just
Yeah.
wanted to put it in my calendar.
Yeah, and I do believe one of them would be in the June.
It's
and-
already on the calendar.
Yeah, I
sent
think
out.
it is,
Should've
but
looked.
let
I
me-
saw the calendars were there, but I didn't look.
Oh, okay. I
closely.
thought you meant it wasn't on there. Let me just.
No, when you mentioned it in the this presentation, it said.
So yes, indeed, in green on your June calendar, if you can see it in color, is toddler story time in the park. So it doesn't say
So
zip.
that's. The,
Yes, so that
I'll
is
put it
Zippy,
together.
and it
Okay.
probably should say Zippy on the calendar, but
got it.
it doesn't. Yeah. And then moving into July is the 24th, and that is also a Zippy visit.
26.
And it is entirely possible that when the calendars were developed, we weren't squared away on Zippy's
Okay.
first
All right.
stops.
That's very cool.
Yeah, we knew Zippy would be at the summer reading kickoff. Though.
I do have one follow-up question regarding that. So I know that there were a couple of Pleasanton residents that came up and asked about book returns. So what would that
Yes.
look like for Zippy?
That's great. Thank you so much. So we were jotting down a lot of the community input because I think it's gold, right? We got to hear directly from our user groups. So there was a question about could they return items on Zippy? We don't have a formal plan for that, but I think the response is we don't see why not. It does make sense if someone does make the effort to come out to an event that we would have the capacity to take those items and take them back and check them back in. We would just want to earmark them accordingly. But yeah, maybe we can actually, that's not a bad thought. How do we designate a returns area? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions or comments?
Do you have a sense of when you might have a route schedule?
Oh, I do not. Yes. Thank you though for asking.
Is that
Yeah.
kind of more of a budget issue?
It is. It's a scheduling issue. I think right now we're still, and this is not on the agenda, so I won't go into a whole lot of details, but we're still trying to determine library hours at this point. So once we have library hours and, staff schedules, I think we'll have a little clearer sense of who is working and, when, really what would be the best day and time would really depend on what the library hours are.
And the staffing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We have waited so long.
know
for
you
this.
have.
It is
Thank you,
exciting to
commissioners.
finally be here.
Yes. And I just want to thank you for that. The energy, the commitment, it's just palpable. I just really appreciate everybody and just your support for Zippy and the excitement. I think staff really notices it too. So just asking each month, when are we going to know about Zippy? That kept us going. Thank you very much.
Okay, and I don't see any speakers. Do we have any speaker cards tonight?
Have speaker cards tonight.
Thank you. Okay. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review the minutes from April 3rd. Any proposed changes to those minutes?
Chair, if you don't not mind me mentioning, you may notice a slight format change on your agenda. So the minutes are under what's called consent calendar now. This is a brand new feature, and it's really mirrored off city council agendas, and it's been done for a while by our planning commission as well. The idea is it's not as impactful when there's only one item on consent, but let's say that we had two meetings that commission was reviewing minutes for. They could be both approved if there were no changes under a single vote. So, and the motion is then to approve the consent calendar, and the second is, and then the vote. Rather than approving the minutes, it's approving the consent calendar. Just a small administrative update.
Thank you. So can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll second.
Oh, someone else has to motion first.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar for April, whether it includes the minutes for April 3rd.
I'll second.
And we'll take a vote, please.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Emerson,
Aye.
Joshi,
Aye.
Kimsey,
Aye.
Stroud,
Aye.
Woodwell,
Aye.
and Chair Sabatini.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We were going to, item 4 is review and discuss the Pleasanton Public Library Collection Development Plan for fiscal year 25-26.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to go ahead and close out of our slideshow really quickly here. I just realized that's still up. So no one can see the commissioners from home while the slideshow is blocking the view. Okay, I think we're cleared. Well, thank you very much. This item before you is our second annual collection development plan, and it's for fiscal year 25-26, which begins July 1st and continues through June 30th, 2026, for those who are new to fiscal year cycles. And this is really something that is designed to provide guidance to staff in developing the collections each year annually. And this really came out of the new commissioner duties which were enacted, which outline, as it mentions in the report, to seasonally review program and service plans, as well as key performance indicators. So while we don't have, a formal budget approval, there's still a proposed city budget at this point. Staff did want to at least embark on the work of developing some frameworks and a set of goals for the coming year. So when the time comes forward, when the budget is finalized, staff can use those goals in that framework, which, we are asking commissioners to review and provide input this evening as they look to allocate budgets in a more difficult budget cycle. We kind of covered, the commission's role with this, and just a little bit of background. We're very grateful to have a very strong collection development policy, which the commission was, very instrumental in through the policy subcommittee that was approved in 2023 by City Council after approval by the Library Commission. And with that, it really emphasized the use of a multiple number of, data points, including not just, our usage data, which is very important in developing library collections, but also input from the community, as well as, implementing things like our DEI principles for collection development. And for those that are new to sort of library collections, I'll give just a little bit more background that when we talk about those collections, it includes all formats. So it wouldn't just be the print format or the library of things, audiovisual, but also our digital collections, which are a powerful tool as well that help to supplement and enhance our print collection. So in looking at I'm assuming everyone had a chance to sort of review the plan itself, but I think, it's important to look at the guiding documents are the collection development policy, but in, kind of more recent years, also the inclusiveness and materials statement. So that is a very important piece for staff. Staff helped develop this document to really address things like book challenges in public libraries. It's very important that, that looking throughout history in public libraries that, the inclusiveness in materials is, honored and memorialized, that those values are upheld for individual choice. This comes up a lot with youth as well, and the importance of the role of the parent for your own family, but also honoring the choices of other families. And then also that our, collection development sort of mirrors those values. And that we do provide, as most public libraries do, an opportunity for the community to engage if they do have a challenge around materials, but also that the library does oppose censorship as well. So very, very important for those that are sort of new and returning to the Library Commission, just really diving into these core documents, I think are really helpful to understand public libraries and the Pleasanton Public Library. So when we look at the collection development plan for fiscal year 25-26, as staff was sort of working through this, it was a bit of a challenge in this, in this budget year cycle because we don't have really definitive, we have the idea of like that there is a proposed budget that includes a 50% reduction in collections, but we still didn't feel confident putting forward, individual collection decisions at this point. While staff is, analyzing the collection, we don't have a full fiscal year set of statistics because our current fiscal year doesn't end until June 30th. So we would, and many times, collection spending, books that are, in the process of being purchased, many times do not ship until, the end of the fiscal year. So you actually won't have the full data on the, the expenditures as well as the usage until that time. But we did include the last full fiscal year cycle, which included fiscal year 23-24. It's very helpful to kind of see as we look at physical collections, that's section 3 of the collection development plan. Just looking at, sort of the checkout pattern as well as the cost for materials. And really that percentage number is going to be, you know, good guidance for staff going into the next fiscal year plan, because that will probably be about the, you know, the percentage apportionment of the collection that is budget that's allocated. So if you look at something like the budget for, you know, the percent of new materials, audio, teen, not audiovisual, adult, teen, audiovisual, and library things represented about 57% of the collection spending. And it's not because those items circulate so much more than children's, but because they are just more expensive by nature. So it's really not just that the money is allocated for a collection budget based strictly on the usage, it's also how much the materials cost, which makes sense. Additionally, children's collection is about 43%, although the usage is the highest of our collection budget. You can see like it's almost 3 times the circulation of the adult budget. And then if you flip, you can see where my mind is. You can flip to the last page on the back. You can see that the digital collections, those also have high usage measured by checkouts or retrievals, depending on the vendor. But their cost is significantly higher because of the cost of a digital service is very high. So we did want to just kind of, for those that are new to the process and didn't see the plan last year, outline a little bit about what physical collections cover. Those include books, DVDs, and library of things, and CDs to a certain extent, although, you know, declining in purchasing and usage over time, those still used. And then, you know, if we look at the digital collections, we did sort of section it off into, you know, the areas of either, you know, what we call learning and research tools versus like the more, you know, I don't know, I don't want to call them passive, but like streaming services, you know, ebooks, e-audio, things that you're not actually engaging with in the same way as you would the digital learning tools. So, you know, there's a chart sort of down below that outlines some of the names of the products and in parentheses what those items are. These names may not be new to you, those who have reviewed the privacy policy. I know we talked a little bit about the vendors that we provide, so hopefully those are getting a little bit more familiar. But hopefully this information is outlined, you know, for you to also engage with the community if you get questions. We will be updating commission on any changes to the collection plan. So once we have a better understanding of allocations, it is our hope to bring this document back to you, but just with a refresh. And so there's some actual numbers in it and a look back at the statistics from fiscal year 24-25. So I think with that, you know, we would continue to, you know, actively market and promote the materials we do have, focus on displays and merchandising as well. We've done a little bit more of a plug in that area in the last couple of years. I think it's been really nice to be able to highlight things that the community doesn't always know that we carry, particularly our Library of Things collection. Did you know the library has bakeware? You know, things that are, you know, folks may not realize that are, you know, in a public library setting. Of course, our new memory, you know, kits collection. We've got some really neat tools. So if you have any thoughts on that too, you know, I think we're really looking for commissioner input around collections as you see reflected in the community, you know, as you connect with others. You know, I know we have a new youth member. We always really enjoy your input as well. So I just encourage your engagement on this item. And I think if you have any questions, I don't have a lot of specifics around, you know, the fiscal portion, but I can, you know, do my best to, you know, answer any questions on the goals or, you know, the path forward to date. Thank you.
I do want to compliment the library on how the staff on how the displays have been lately. There have been some really interesting things that you wouldn't have thought pulled together, which I think has been really, really creative. It's really, you know, I spend a lot of my time just kind of wandering around looking at things, looking for books, and I like the fact that they've pulled together things that I wouldn't expect. And the one that I thought was really clever was the one where they had all the things that had not been checked out before. And I just thought that was kind of a clever way to say, hey, take a look at these things. And I think it's I think it's been really, really well done. So I just want to pass that on.
Thank you. And I think staff will really enjoy hearing that. We've broadened our team that does displays. So we have, as well as our librarians and library assistants, our library clerks are now engaging in the work. And I think the team holistically has put together some really creative ideas. I've enjoyed some of the Valentine's Day displays as well. We brought back Blind Date with a book. You know, there's just a lot of fun things you can do that are very engaging and get people, you know, to kind of notice, or like you said, things that have never checked out or low usage too.
Yeah. Or things you wouldn't see put together, which I think is kind of an interesting.
Yeah, I'll share that. Thank you so much.
I did also have a question on, as you start to look at this, I noticed that the checkouts are higher for the physical than they are for the digital, and the cost for the digital is higher than the physical. How are you going to, when you think about, when you get a budget number to deal with, how are you going to prioritize that?
Thank you, and that is something we're definitely talking about. I can speak to. So first, on the question of the digital, the usage, you know, versus the, you know, as it aligns with the costs, and it is high in many cases. I think you're looking at a holistic number, and when you break down the products, some products do have higher usage. One of the challenges, I think we've talked about this, I can't remember which discussion this was in, or maybe it was a year ago at our collection development plan discussion, just how hard it is to get metrics from the vendors that are all measured the same. So each vendor, some vendors will measure the number of retrievals, which some will measure the number of downloads. There's no uniform metric of measurement, which makes it very hard to compare apples to apples. Some measure the number of checkouts, some measure the number of sessions. So when you see a chart, you'll see there really isn't a whole lot of alignment. So staff does their very best to get, you know, sort of a look at, but it's, you know, you can't really say, you know, we like to look at things like what's the cost per use. You can't really pull that. That's also actually difficult in our physical collection at times because we can't just take our annual budget and compare it with the circulation, because obviously checkouts are happening for materials that you already own, not just that you purchase annually. So I think what it is you are looking at usage, you're looking at the cost overall of the product, the impact. Also to staff in this digital work group, this team in the library that evaluates these materials, they have a set of criteria where they're also looking at gap areas in the physical collection. So there may be something when they're purchasing, for instance, financial software, that looks at, whether it's financial ratings, that may be something we don't have a print material on, or that changes so frequently that it's of more value in a digital resource. At other times, staff looks at what other libraries carry. That's another important consideration. Is this locally at Livermore or in Dublin or even broader in the county system? Not that we all coordinate that because each system is run independently, but I think it is a consideration when things are not held elsewhere or are duplicated. When, especially in lean budget times, we may look to see where else the community could get materials, if that makes sense. So Libby, a source like Libby is a little easier because it is a checkout model, more akin to a book, but it's also more of a book model. So, and then, streaming videos, is it downloads, is it sessions? And then, you've got a tutoring software like BrainFuse, which obviously it's not going to do checkouts. So you can see why it's very difficult to sort of compare against each other. And I think, the reduction of 50%, it won't be as neat as, each product costs differently. So we're going to have to determine, a priority list, based on, usage, value, need, demand, all those, items. And then we'll bring that information back to commission.
There's not really a proportional sense. No recipe for that.
It's hard. I've worked in public libraries for many years, and I remember even just going back to grad school, and this is dating myself, but there was a lot of conversation with the vendors of trying to encourage them to go to a standard measurement system because that would make it a lot easier. And I don't know if there's the will of these private companies to want to, I think they're developing metrics, and they tell you, and you may say, we'd like to know this, and they don't provide that statistic. And, there was even thought of using sort of a standard. There was, and again, this could be like, I don't know if it's a programming language, something called Z39.50 that would go behind the scenes and provide a way to provide uniform statistics across all vendor platforms, and it never launched. It was, so it's been an ongoing challenge in libraries for many years to get uniform statistics from digital vendors, but they're in high demand. So I think public libraries continue to purchase them because they meet community need as well. Sorry for the extended answer to that question, but it's a
It's a complicated issue.
yeah, it is really complicated.
I have a couple things. First of all, I don't see the New York Times online on here. Is it? Am I missing it somewhere in here?
So that's a great question. These are actually, so I believe that one, because this is a list of things that the library purchases, and the New York Times has been provided free of charge through the California State Library. That
Okay.
said,
So it's not even
it's measured.
listed, even though it is very valuable, but we're just not paying anything.
We're not paying it, and to my understanding, getting the statistics, because we're part of sort of a collaborative, we don't have the individual statistics readily available. I believe we can contact them to try and obtain those at certain intervals. One thing we did here recently is that the California state budget moving forward does not include the ability to cover funding for that source because of the uncertainty of federal funding.
That's what that was actually the other thing I had written down. So I've heard we will possibly be losing federal funding, which is not a huge percentage, but
That's
it
true.
sounds like it will trickle down into things
Yes,
like the loss.
there are always trickle down effects.
And so does that mean we will probably no longer offer the New York Times if it's not coming through the California state?
Yeah, we are not certain on that. I think one of the, there's many considerations about pricing, and, it's not really possible to carry every newspaper. And while that's, obviously a
Of course
quality,
not. Yeah. Yeah, that
publication,
makes
a lot of
sense.
it will depend on cost.
Is there anything else that we might be losing because because California, the state, is losing it?
Yes. So from in the literacy world, I believe it is some of the publications like News for You and some of the student publications, which then I think libraries are exploring. Some of them are not terribly expensive if they can roll those into their grant budget. But there were some nice things that really came that were just provided to libraries, as well as some grants that were from the Institute for Museum and Library Services, administered by the Library Services and Technology Act, which is then, which is not state funding. So we haven't received a lot of LSTA grants. To my experience, we get more grants through the Pacific Library Partnership, which we are very grateful for, and through state funding. So the state funding for the library's literacy grant appears to remain intact. So
And also, so it seems like some of the things were linked already. It's like that domino thing. Will Link Plus be affected at all?
So Link Plus is, it has different funding components. So Link Plus, I don't know, for our new commissioners and returning commissioners, that's the service that provides sort of an interlibrary loan type service where throughout California and actually throughout the U.S. you can obtain materials and then through a delivery service to the library, and then they're checked out through our platform. So part of what we pay for is the platform fee through our integrated library services, our software vendor. So a portion of that funding is through a grant program. We have been in meetings, and there may be some options, but we're still exploring what that looks like in terms of the state funding that through the grant that seems to remain intact, and then there are delivery charges that we do get some grant funding for, although the city does provide funding for the service as well. So we've had no discussion of impacts to Link Plus at this point.
I was just thinking we probably will be relying on it more if we're cutting our
Collection
budget in half. We do have that. So
There may be
if
impacts.
we can keep Link Plus
Yeah, and Link Plus
robust,
is
that would
really
be
nice for those who have used it for items that aren't. It is used for popular fiction titles, but it's really nice for things that are a little bit more specialized for a public library setting. So we have not traditionally purchased a lot of those. So yes, Link Plus is a great opportunity. Obviously, if there are longer wait times for materials, and patrons can find it through Link Plus, and it's over that kind of, I think, 1 year old period, then Link Plus is a great opportunity for that as well.
That's good news then.
Yeah.
Have any questions? Questions?
No.
Do you have any questions? Oh. Okay, thank you very much
Thank
for the
you.
presentation. Good information. And on to the summer reading program. Another fun one.
Well, thank you very much. Well, as mentioned this evening, we are replacing the item, the outreach, the standing monthly item that we have on outreach opportunities. And for our new commissioners, the outreach opportunity item we bring forward every month is a chance for the library to share its program and event calendar and really invite commissioners to participate in outreach if they're interested. And it's not something you need to make a commitment for at the time of the meeting. Obviously, you need time to consider this, and it's not a requirement to be there. Always greatly appreciated by staff. But what you can do if you're interested in participating in any of these calendar events, just reach out to me personally and let me know you're coming. I just want to make sure oftentimes I really enjoy being there if you're there, but I also can set up, for instance, if there's tabling opportunities, I can set up our outreach table. We have a colorful tablecloth. We can provide some, flyers or handouts, and, we'll make sure you have your name badge and everything. So that's, if you're interested and want to provide outreach, it's a great way to talk with community members and really get input on library services. So I think there's nothing like talking to people in, I won't call it 100% natural setting, but it's, they're there to enjoy an event, and it's usually a very positive experience. So I just wanted to put my plug in for doing outreach. If you are interested, let me know. But I will transition to a different topic, which is just this evening to hear a little bit about the 2025 summer reading program. We are more excited than ever for this year's theme. I think there's a lot of gamers at the library and puzzle people and activity people that come in and use our services in addition to being on our staff team. So this year brings us Level Up at Your Library. And so those who have been in the library and seen the wonderful decorations and the theme this year, we're just super, super excited. And as you know, those of you who've been in the community for a while, we've been doing a summer reading program probably for longer than this, but at least 30 years. And each year has a really unique theme. We get our themes through something called the I Read program, which is a national program that provides summer reading program themes to many different public libraries. We're not required to use their themes, but we've always really enjoyed them. With the I Read program comes some wonderful artwork, usually from children's book illustrators, which is a really nice tie-in. It gives us a lot of different options. Staff gets to pick the different designs out of, different options for different age groups, and then, helps to design the different reading logs that are used, the posters, the marketing materials. So I think you'll notice just the beautiful artwork this year. We did include a flyer in your packet, so if you did want to print out copies, or, we're trying to be a little greener at the library. We're not really printing as many flyers, but if you wanted to email it or you want a separate PDF copy, just reach out to me. If you want to promote, or if you're on social media, feel free to, share that page in whatever, platform you're using, or, encourage others to follow the library. So just a little bit more about Level Up at Your Library and how we built this year's program. We really modeled it on last year's success. So last year we had kind of a big shift, and I think some of it was post-COVID, but just getting back to doing a little bit more in-person activities and programming. Those who heard from our librarian, Chris Oda, who came to the wrap-up, heard the wonderful success of our Teen Advocates program, which is a program. We've had many wonderful volunteer programs over the years. We've had a middle school program. This Teen Advocate program was a little geared for older students this time around. And, they participated in sort of a process where they filmed a video of themselves and talked about why they wanted to be an advocate. And each one of them is just fantastic. So we wish we could keep them all forever. And, at the end of the summer, they have shared with us how meaningful the experience is for them because they get to sign up readers of all ages, from babies, 0 to 99, we say, although it could go older, generally not younger though. And our teen advocates, they participate in the games. This year we've got a really fun game that's sort of a Dungeons and Dragons themed game. We've got some fun dice they can roll. I don't think we have the clicky wheel that they had last year. It was really great, but I think they wanted to try something just a little different each year. So Level Up at your library, the gist of it is they have a reading log, and we have 3 different ones. We have one for babies, one for kids, and one for teens and adults. And with that reading log, it's really a self-paced program where the readers, they pick it up and they mark things off. They can actually decide that maybe they want to read a number of minutes or they want to read a number of books, but they pace themselves, and it goes up to now I'm questioning myself. I think it goes up to 20 or 30. Do we have any power users here that can remember? But are you signed up, Anya? No. But it's got about 20 or 30 different bubbles on it. And when they complete each section, they are eligible for sort of a smaller prize. That was one of the survey results we had last year, was individuals wanted something where they were kind of motivated each step of the way, not just towards large raffle tickets. So we've got things like a choice of, a pencil or a candy. We actually have the free book at the beginning, and then at the end, through the generosity of the Friends of the Library, we have a free book at the book sale in the fall, as well as raffle tickets along the way. Through the generosity of Five Little Monkeys in downtown Pleasanton, we do have $5 coupons. They do have a small section of items there with, that are kind of under $5. So that should be fun for our youth and possibly our adults this summer too. So the game theme is going to be very fun. We have, multiple events. We already had the first one, Rhythm Builders. We had about 170 or so at the first show and almost 100, I think, at the second show. So we had a really good, first day for our performers. A little later on in the summer, we have the illustrator Oliver Chin coming in to do a teen design workshop. Oliver Chin is known from the show called the Aquanauts. Does anyone remember that show from, I think it was on the Disney Channel, so it was really popular a little while back. So Oliver Chin is very talented, and he'll be working with our teens. He's doing 2 sessions in one day. We actually are going to have a visit from one of our teen camps in the city come over. So we're doing a little outreach. That's an audience that we can't always easily reach, of middle school students who are over the summer. It's, we really do like the reading program to help with what they call the summer slide, which is, a lag in reading over the summer, which can backslide you on your reading skills. So that is, an area that public libraries are really interested in supporting. So that'll be this summer. And when they visit, they'll check out materials as well. We're also going to have the film club for adults. I don't have the name of the film, but I have heard it's related to the Level Up theme. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that will be. And then we're going to have a trivia night. So I'd love our commissioners, anyone who's interested, who's enjoy trivia, that's going to be at the Firehouse Arts Center. And those are usually very well attended. And those also are designed to meet sort of an adult audience that we don't always easily reach, the sort of the 20 to 40-year-old, 20, 30-year-old crowd, but it's really all ages. So we are focusing on adults for that program, but, I think if an older teen showed up, there's nothing content-wise, but it is geared for adults because it's, we don't have too many adult programs. We'll continue this summer. This is the first summer we're going to have all of our story times all summer long. So we've had a lot of requests and input for more story times, more frequency. So we are going to continue with that and have baby, toddler, and baby, toddler, family, and sensory story time this summer. For those who don't know, our sensory story time is a really neat experience. It's held once a month, and it's an hour before the library opens, and it gives young children and their families a chance to experience the library before we open during quiet hours. So it's a sensory-friendly story time for kids, that have neurodiversity or their family members. Really, it's for anyone in the community that would benefit from that story time, and staff has participated in special training to learn how to provide that service. And I know they're offered in many libraries, and they're very popular. When the story time concludes, they get to explore the library on their own, check out materials. We have the lights sort of dimmed, so it's a very comfortable experience. And I think as a result, families coming sometimes get to know each other and make those connections. So it's really, really neat to offer that. And our baby story time continues to grow. So we did begin offering registrations just recently. We had over 90, I believe, at one of the last. You can imagine with babies, that's a lot of people in one room when they're very small. So the registration process has gone fairly easily, surprisingly. And, we do have a chance for folks to be waitlisted and wait by if there's a spot available, but the babies do tend to show up. They don't have a lot of other choices yet.
What's the number, the max to register?
So I think the staff is still working out that, what the best number is. I think it's around 50 to 60, but please don't quote me on it.
No, I was just curious. I'm like, man, it's got to be
Yeah.
lower than 90.
Yeah, and I think because it's just adorable to see them at story time. So then they tend to bring the whole family. So our numbers do get higher, and we want to keep it sort of a safe space. And also the program, more importantly, I think it does benefit on a little bit more intimate setting, but the demand is so high. So it's kind of balancing the demand against the, sort of the program, space. And our team is so dynamic. If you ever get a chance, they just do such a fabulous job. The energy is just, it's so exciting in the room. So just, they really get them engaged, and you see the parents kind of lifting the babies over their heads, and the babies are looking excited mostly, so a little bit of movement, music, and, those foundational things for learning at an age that is before school begins. So that's a wonderful gap area the team has filled with that program. And so I'm going into a little bit more detail on programming for our newer commissioners, just so that you have a little context and learn a little bit more. So I think we've covered pretty much all of the programming coming up, but I'm happy to answer any questions and just talk a little bit more about our summer program. And I think with that, thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for that. I did get a chance to stop by the Rhythm Builders, and that was absolutely fantastic. I had a great time, and I think it's great to have children being able to kind of engage in that way, especially when summer's just started, school's out, and kind of catching that energy and directing it toward reading. That's really, really good.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you got to experience that.
Absolutely.
I was really impressed by all the decorations. Like each section had a different game that it was decorated as, and it brought like so much life to the library.
Thank you. Once again, I will very happily share that with staff. They put a lot of time and dedication into that effort, and they are so creative.
They are, it shows.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, no.
I mean, I just have a selfish question. If not enough people sign up for the teens How to Draw Fantasy characters, do you open it up to non-teens?
I think you could probably put your name on a wait list.
Just asking for a friend, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I
So
would-
that would have been my best suggestion if you'd like to wear your name tag.
I could just walk into rooms.
There's nothing to say they wouldn't enjoy having you sit there and, just, alongside,
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I volunteer.
Yes.
Volunteer is true.
Yeah. And I know many of our commissioners are, just a reminder, we do now fingerprint anyone working in a program area. So I know probably the majority of folks are, but if you are not or have any question if you are, please just send me an email or reach out and I can help you work through that process. We'll make it painless. We have a mobile service that can often come out. If the worst case scenario, you can go to Livermore. If you can do it before the end of the fiscal year, that's even better 'cause for funding for us. So
It's really painless in Livermore as well. So
yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, looks good.
Yeah, a lot of good things happening. It's exciting.
Thank you very much.
Okay, James, I know you've been here before, but new to being back. Do you have an update from the Friends?
No, I guess I can just provide it, a generic update, very similar to the presentation that Leah gets to see on a monthly basis. But our most recent book sale in March was successful, and our next book sale is planned for the 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th of September of this year. If you've not had a chance, and I think I've worked with Wendy in the past on those sales, if you haven't had a chance to volunteer for it, it is a lot of fun, and it really gives you a perspective into all the work that goes into putting a citywide book sale on by the Friends. It is very well organized. I mean, we know exactly where in that large conference room that fiction's going to be, and romance, and auto care. They just have it broken down so well, and they're so efficient in how they've planned and how it can be executed. As a matter of fact, the person who typically puts that sale on, Kate, she was out. She wasn't able to be here, but just her plans were so detailed that someone else was able to just jump in and have a real successful sale. What these sales do is they bring in funds that the primary beneficiary is the Pleasanton Library. And right now we are sitting on funding that has been from previous sales and beyond, earning interest, and we're essentially trying to develop a what's the word I'm looking for?
Strategy.
Not a strategy, a endowment, so to speak, of funds, so that whether budgets go up or budgets go down, we can continue to be a funding arm of the library, which is reliable and which is beneficial to the citizens of our city. So
That's great.
not sure if there's anything else I can share with you. Yes.
When's the next meeting?
It's typically the last Monday of the month.
Okay.
And you are always welcome to attend those as well.
And where?
We have that. Typically, it's in the large. And what's the name of that room?
I think we call it the large meeting room because there's a small
The
one
large
too.
meeting room where we have
Where we have the
sale.
book sale.
Yeah, that's right. That's typically where we meet. 7 p.m. on the last Monday of the month.
And I did just confirm that date today. Nancy called me. It's the June 30th.
If that Monday happens to fall on a holiday, Memorial Weekend, Labor Weekend, or something like that, then they'll move it. But fairly reliable last Monday of the month.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay. Any other reports on meetings, conferences, or seminars?
Oh, I think we do have one. I'm going to load up, but I'll wait for you to cue it up.
Well, I was visiting my mother back home in St. Louis, and she said, "Oh, you've got to come." They tore down the St. Louis County headquarters for the library and built a new one, and it's the most spectacular library you've ever seen. I mean, of course, it serves. Well, I mean, the St. Louis County is, 300,000 people, and they have the headquarters library, and then they have several lots of branches, which is really nice. But I just got so excited about it. And I'm the world's worst photographer, and I tried to take some pictures, and then I sent them to Leah so she could upload them. And just mostly to like tick my brain on what I saw because it was so cool. I don't know. Do they come up?
Yes, I'm just working on it right now.
What do I want to say? I don't know. The children's library is just really special. And I was there on a Sunday, and it was just packed with kids. And they have it almost looks like a life-size dollhouse that the kids were climbing in and playing in. It was, well, that's the entrance. I mean, it's just so cute looking. And you'll notice it's got, a sponsor name on it. And I'm proud of the town I'm from. I think St. Louis is a very cultural town, and people step up and make donations. And so, of course, now it was always called the headquarters, and now it's the Clark headquarters. Oh, so there's the life-size dollhouse, it seemed, and the kids were just having a blast in there. It was really cute. We can just go through them really quick. And this one, you can see they built these little, where the circles are, there's like cushion in there, and the kids are laying in there and reading. In the back, well, maybe in the next one you can see in the, we're not, so that's the end of the kids. Well, they had, this is also, I loved that they're, everything in the kids section were these type of displays. So you could, the kids down low could really see lots of books. It was just a beautiful way to present the books. And there were kids in there that were playing chess on this little video thing. I thought that was really cute. And then I think probably, was there only that other one picture? This picture doesn't at all demonstrate what this is. This is the teen section. And they have these beautiful super Mac computers. And they have times when only teens are allowed to be there, but then there's times when the adults get to come in too. And I don't know all this stuff, but like they had 3 3D printers that they could use. They could do the poster printing. They had just like all this high-tech hardware or software on the computers. So it was really spectacular. And in this teen section, they also have a studio where you can I could go in and do flute recordings, and they have all this incredible equipment for that. Then they had like a craft section where they had a Cricut, and it was just really fun. And I don't know why there's no people sitting there. There were people there, but and then it was just, and there I'm not really a genealogy person. But and of course, people in St. Louis are so nice, and it's new, and so every section we would walk into, someone would go, "Would you like a tour?" Because they could tell I was like just taking it all in, and it was really exciting, and the genealogy section was amazing, and it was huge, and they had all these resources. I don't know, we probably have this and I don't even know it. You could go in there and they have I could go on Ancestry. Do we have that? I'm sorry, I'm not.
We do, thanks to the generosity of the Friends of the Pleasanton
Because I
Library.
thought that was really cool. I didn't know that was something I learned there. And then I did grab their teen or their I don't know, the children and teen guide, because they too, I think, were really trying to bring teens to the library. And they had an anime club, and they have a Minecraft club, and they have a Dungeons and Dragons night, and so and again, it's for a bigger group. I think some of the pictures I wanted to send you just didn't go. Like Post, the cereal company, they were a big sponsor of the meeting rooms. So everything had a name on it, and I know it's gross, but it's sort of the world we live in. If you want stuff, you have to take donations, right?
Yeah,
And I think they were really wise in gathering all this money and making this really great place. I loved it. I was so into it and so excited about it. I would say the one bummer, I shared this with Leah earlier, that I tried to get a library card because, it's kind of a badge of honor when you've got multiple library cards. And you have to prove that you live in St. Louis County to get one. Ooh. And I felt very sad for them. And I wanted to tell them that I didn't think that was very welcoming or inclusive, but I didn't want to start a fight.
And they didn't make the rules whoever you're talking
That's
to.
true
you
too.
know?
But I thought everything was great, but they maybe missed the mark on that, and I hope they get there
Did your
eventually.
mom get one though?
Oh yeah, she had been there and
She's
was
already-
super excited. And they also have a mobile vehicle, and so yeah, that comes to my mom lives in a senior living center, and the mobile vehicle comes there regularly,
Oh, nice.
which is really
Nice.
nice. So anyway, thank you for letting me talk about that.
I would add my comment to that too. When I was in Vancouver, British Columbia last summer, and I think I brought that up in the commission meeting. They also have a gorgeous library. I mean, again, for a much larger community, but they also had areas that were very specifically sponsored by different people, and they called it out. The toddler section, had board book, it had a name over it. The different areas that had like sort of art in it was a gallery that was named after someone, and I think I asked at that time. I know that we have things that were specifically Friends of the Library, but I don't know whether. I know you said that it was being kind of considered. I think it would be worth knowing, and maybe for everyone to know what is and isn't possible inside the library. Does everything need to funnel through the Friends of the Library legally? Or can someone who wants to, give a very large gift for a very specific section, is that something that the city of Pleasanton does or doesn't allow? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's actually a simple question to answer. We won't go into a discussion as this item is not agendized. But yes, the individuals can and do make donations to the city.
Yeah, I think it's something that's probably, given the funding situation in the city of Pleasanton, it's probably something that's worth making more people a little more aware, because you just really don't know where those people are.
Well, thank you for that. And I would be happy to share there was a sponsorship policy approved by the city. I can send that item to you. I'll make a note of that. Yeah.
Well, I just know from working in Livermore at the Bankhead that you don't really know who can make gifts and what sparks their interest. And then if they don't know if it's possible, then they might not be as interested in coming forward.
Yes, and I think you'll see when I send the citywide, because we would go. It's a citywide policy, so the protocol and the strategy would be coordinated. And I do believe you'll see that outreach component on there.
Yeah,
But
think it's
I
just something
appreciate
that-
your
Is there-
insights. Yeah.
Is there a point person in the city coordinating those types of efforts?
Yes, I do believe that our director, Heidi Murphy, is, she has been, very involved in this process. I don't have any updates for you currently. I think we're just trying to move through the budget process, which we anticipate completion by the end of June. And then I think the work of the sponsorship, group will
I guess I was
continue.
wondering if that's something we could put on our agenda to have someone come and speak to
Yeah.
us
So
about
Yeah, I
what
think
that
it's a
process would
city
be.
matter at this point. So I think, I can check on that and provide an update to you if you wouldn't mind an email on it. I'd
Okay.
like to just have a little bit more time to, get some good information for you because it's so new. The sponsorship policy was just approved.
Yeah, I think it would be worth maybe putting it as an item for
I-
discussion.
particularly because where we are right now, I mean, in the budget process, it is the library that has taken the biggest hit. And obviously, we're all here because we want to support the libery any way we can and, work towards.
Yeah, I do
whatever
believe
efforts are
that the
necessary.
strategy behind, I can speak to the strategy behind the sponsorship plan is not, it's not to, it's really strategic in the sense when you reach out, and I think anyone who's done, it sounds like Roberta, you have a background in development and through the outreach, you don't go out. Each department can't go just separately and do their own thing. It doesn't make sense because then you're hitting up the same businesses, the same community partners. It really does have to be strategic. And I think there is a plan to, that's why I don't want to get ahead of the process by, this is not really just a library commission matter. This is a citywide matter. And I think there is a strategy to move, through different departments, and I don't know where the library aligns with that. So I think there was a discussion of, looking at sponsorship perhaps at the Firehouse Arts Center, so I think that would be something, very interesting to hear about, but it wouldn't be, the Library Commission. So there's really, because it's not the purview of the commission, it would just be an informational presentation, and I can't give you a timeline on when that would be because we need something from the city to come forward with a strategy, if that makes sense.
Well, it does make sense, but I also think that from the library standpoint, the library knows what could be sponsored in a way that people across the city might not know.
And the library would provide that input to the citywide group, yeah.
Because I think that, speaking from a development standpoint, I think that the more varied options that you have, the more likely you are to find people that are interested in them. So yes, it's true, you could have part of the Firehouse Arts Center, for example, be sponsored by someone. I think you have to offer a menu. That's been always.
And
my
they are
understanding.
developing a menu. And so I think the next it will go to council and so what I'd love to do is invite commissioners, if there were a meeting topic like that, to go to the council meeting or to watch the council meeting and engage, because we wouldn't present it separately. Just like we don't present the city budget at a commission meeting, we wouldn't provide the city, commission or the city, sponsorship policy or strategy at a commission meeting.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking that it would be strategy. It would
Okay.
just be more areas inside the library that would be potential.
And I think we do want to discuss that. So that has definitely
I think
come
it
up.
makes sense because even
We
to say
just
to the
aren't
Friends of
there
the
yet.
library, even to say to the Friends of the Library, these are the top things that we would most like to have you help us with. That's something that the commission and the people who are involved with the library, as we are, can have some input. I think that does make sense. The things that we understand from the library's perspective as being the most important. Because even to give that information to the Friends, we would need to have thought about it somewhat.
Would you want to join a friends meeting possibly?
I just think it's input that should come.
Because the
from-
friends are sort of asking these questions too
Yes, I
from
would
their
think so.
perspective. So I would just encourage, our invitation from James for anyone who is interested to join the friends, because we want to work with our friends group.
I had a thought. This has been a very rich discussion, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
When Cindy was giving her little presentation of what she saw in St. Louis, and she said that they had a place where you could go get posters printed. I just 2 years ago, I had a client who went to an all work from home approach, and part of my job was to help them with that whole approach. And we ended up with this big, large format poster printer. And I called two of my friends who were graphic designers and said, "I've got this new HP large format printer, printer plotter. Can you use it?" And they both said, "I would love to have it. I don't have the room." We disposed of it.
Really?
These are the kind of
Yeah.
things that
It's
would
like you
be,
gotta have
if we knew exactly what the process was, it would take a quick phone call to Leah or to
Yeah.
whomever, and we would know what the availability was to move it to somewhere where the community could take advantage of it.
We would
And
make
I-
a wish list.
Yes.
too.
Yeah,
And I would say, please call me. And I really do mean this. I think it is helpful when there are these things. Now, sometimes there are situations we've had offers of donations of a bank of computers, a school that was closing, and what we found was the computers were older than I think the donor originally understood them to be, something around 12 years old. And so, obviously that doesn't work for us, or even something newer, it has to fit with the city, digital, the footprint of, what the city IT can and would support. But on the other hand, something, that would be very easy plug and play, please reach out. We did have a generous offer of a microfilm reader recently. We've had some things, and sometimes it works out very well for us, and you don't know. But that's not really part of, I think for sponsorship, it really is, it looks quite different. And we need to spend the time, to Roberta's point, you're completely right. We have to analyze what could be sponsored but that work takes time and there's a lot of research involved. And I think we'd like to come to commission when we have a more, when we have a better sense of that, rather than I think that is work that staff can engage on and that isn't necessarily in the purview of the commission, in the duties, but what is in there is for us to come to you and provide input on services and programs and give updates in a budget format once the budget is adopted. I think there's a chance for us to outline funding from the Friends. I know we had a request for information on grant funding, and I realize I haven't always shared all the grants that we receive and what those go to and how they're funded and, what the opportunities are. So, I'd like to roll it in, if possible, into our budget conversation, which we would anticipate we could bring forward, after the budget is adopted in June. So that is moving forward at the June 17th meeting. But again, there could be additional meetings. We do know there's a council meeting on June 17th for anyone interested.
You just said there'll be a budget discussion here
So
after that?
we do. So we have, I don't know if you remember, we provide now a presentation with the adopted budget, and then we provide, a deeper look into, because when you see the city budget, it's very much of an overview. And for those that are new to the process, it doesn't line item, things that you see today, like, the expense of a collection, what is spent. You will not see that in the citywide adopted budget. And you'll see a departmental budget, you'll see some divisional areas, you'll see library divisions, but you won't know what those mean because they'll have names like Library Technical Services. No one knows exactly what that budget covers. So in this budget presentation, we'll actually go through, and I know this would be of particular interest from my conversations with you, Commissioner Joshi, of what is covered, what are the expenses. The library does have a modicum of revenue. We'll cover that. We'll look at the revenue from grants. We'll look at the Friends revenue and what that looks like, what it's used for. So it's an attempt to do our best to pull together a municipal budget and kind of explain how that is represented in programs, services to the community.
This is what we talked about when we revised the commission
Yes.
role last year.
Exactly.
It's just not listed here under your
Yeah, I was
future
gonna say
agenda items. So
Well,
do we
it's
need
definitely a motion second if commission is interested to get it on there. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to have the budget discussion on the future agenda.
I second.
I just wanted to add one thing. So we just got back from a very long, 2 months away, and we were in Japan, Korea, and also Shanghai, and it was a great trip. But one thing I saw.
Vote for the motion in second. Sorry.
We have to vote on that.
Yeah. Are we at Matters Initiated, or do you want to continue
Oh,
with?
no, all I was going to say is they were showing a movie in, of course, I go to the libraries wherever I am, in Seoul, and the movie was titled The Fragility of Libraries. And all I could think of is what was going on here. And I'm just like, this is around the world. There's people who are keeping our libraries going. It's not just a small little issue. This is worldwide that we've fortunately got people who are passionate and working to keep us with our libraries, our public libraries, yes. So, sorry.
So we do have to
Have a
vote
vote.
on the motion.
We do, we have a motion on the floor.
Okay. So can Anya, are
Commissioners Chen,
Aye.
Emerson,
Aye.
Joshi,
Aye.
Kimsey,
Aye.
Strout,
Aye.
Woodwell,
Aye.
and Chair Sabatini.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Are there other items that we need to add to the future agenda items at this point?
I get, could we add having what the updates on Zippy's, what we will, updates on everything about Zippy, I guess. Like, are we going to have more drivers? Are we going to visit these certain places that we've discussed, especially community partners and all?
would you want to see
and-
sort of the plan for Zippy more.
Yeah, the
like
plan for Zippy as it
Zippy's-
goes along, because it sounds like some things are very tentative, or you just don't know because it might be related to the budget or whatever, you know. But
So an update,
updates, yeah, Zippy update.
a zippy
yes.
update.
Do we need a
Do we need a motion
on
for that?
one?
Yes.
I motion that we add the Zippy update.
And I'll
to the-
second.
Let's vote.
Commissioners Chen,
Aye.
Emerson,
Aye.
Joshi,
Aye.
Kimsey,
Aye.
Stroud,
Aye.
Woodwell,
Aye.
Chair Sabatini.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes.
I have a conflict with our next meeting in August. There's no way to change the day, right? It throws everything off.
Wendy has to.
Oh, no, I just have my calendar.
Oh. I mean, right now it's scheduled for August 7th. And,
When can?
well, I mean, I know we have to keep them on Thursdays, right? But can you even switch to a different week off that, or are there meetings here all the time?
I'm going to defer to Anya. So because it's not agendized,
Oh, sorry.
would we need to, we could
Well, I'll just miss.
We can call the special meeting. But,
we could call a special
yes, We
meeting.
will have to cancel the regular meeting and call the special meeting.
And do we know if this room is available?
We can also, we would have to check what is available.
And if it's not available, can we have it somewhere else?
We could have it somewhere else also.
So lots of,
But
lots of
it's
things.
we could probably would have to go to the Bush Road, to the operation services, because that's the only place that could be.
Are we still for remote meetings? Is that
You just have to have it
Oh.
publicly available
Yeah,
to
publicly.
comply with Brown Act. Yeah, you just have to make sure. And we could even do it at the library if the library was open.
We
It just
used
has
to
to be
have it in the meeting room.
accessible to anyone.
Maybe
I guess my
could just-
question
I could
for
just be remote.
my colleague is, are we no longer doing remote attend? Like if a commissioner wanted to,
Not for the commission meeting.
not
Oh,
anymore, that
there's
ended
no more,
Not for,
you can't,
for the council, but not for the
for
commission.
council but not commission. Okay.
Oh.
That did change at one point then. Okay. Thank you.
Well, you don't want to be remote
or
anyway,
you
because
can
you're.
just run it. It'll be fine.
I think it would be better if we know ahead of time and we can all.
But also, you commissioner can attend virtually. So
Wait,
Well, that was
I
my
can't,
question.
as
Yes,
a
if-
commissioner, I
yes.
can be remote?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Let's
yes,
plan on that.
yes.
And no
The
one
whole
else
meeting
has an
cannot be
issue in
remote, but
August,
you
do
can.
they?
Commissioner can attend remotely.
I never know when my.
Let's just leave it alone.
Yes. So if commissioners would like to attend remote, we would just need a request. We would ask for about a week's notice.
Okay.
And then the procedure is then we do ask for the information on where you will be attending the meeting. That is under the Brown Act, it's required for posting. I just wasn't certain whether we were still accommodating those.
Where, just mean I need to give you the address?
Correct.
Okay.
So if you're staying at a hotel, you put
Yeah.
the address of the hotel. If
Okay.
it's staying at a residence, it would be the address of a residence, and that would be posted as part of the packet. And then we would provide information on the Zoom.
That sounds like it'll
yeah.
work just fine. Thank you. Oh,
But also it will be publicly available, so don't put your home address.
Yeah,
You
if
don't
some
want-
yeah.
if someone knocks
your-
at your
your mom's
door, they would
address.
need to be able to attend.
yeah, it's a hotel.
That part's creepy to me.
Any other future agenda items? Thank you all very much. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. I really missed the gavel.
So there's
I don't think we've talked about that.
no, I mean that whole worksheet stuff.
Really?
Oh, guys.
That's interesting.
And
I
no,
was
no, no,
at
it's not a problem. It's just I wish I could
Urbana.
have just turned it back to you today.
Yeah.
Can I just? I'll just
Wow.
drop that off.
I've been to